we're going to work through the three muscle layers of the uterus so that you get a good understanding of how they work together harmoniously to dilate and open your cervix and also to move your baby down. This illustration is looking at the uterus from the front, and what I've done is I have cut away to show you the three different layers, starting with the outer layer, which consists of the longitudinal fibers. So if I had to look at that from the outside, imagine those fibers running up and down the uterus. And those are the muscles that shorten and tighten in order to pull up and open your cervix. The very inner layer consists of circular fibers, and if I move over here, what I'm looking at and what I'd like you to imagine is tiny little circles very close together on the bottom and lower end of the uterus, gradually getting wider apart as it moves up. And if you could imagine those as circles that surround the uterus, and what the longitudinal muscles are doing is they are drawing up and bunching the circles up together, and as they do that, they are opening the cervix. And if I move down to this diagram, we can see that the shape of the uterus is large at the top, moving down to the bottom. So we refer to the upper part as the fundus, or the upper segment of the uterus. We refer to this bit as the lower segment, and then here is your cervix. So if we're thinking of the muscles, those longitudinal muscles are pulling the lower segment up around the baby's head, and imagine those little circles being bunched up and being pulled up. And it's almost as if the muscles of the uterus work like a turtleneck sweater, and the turtleneck, which is represented here by your cervix, those muscles are working to pull the neck over your baby's head. So that's a nice illustration. Now, the layer that I haven't talked about is the middle layer, which consists of figure-of-8 fibers, and these fibers are largely responsible for contracting the blood vessels. Now you can imagine if all of these muscles close and tighten, not tighten, but contract, these little spaces would become smaller, so the amount of blood that gets to your baby via the umbilical cord from the placenta is diminished. So every time the muscles contract, those blood vessels are tightened, and this is the main reason, and we will speak about this in more detail in a later module, but this is the reason why deep breathing is so important when you're having a contraction, so that you are able to keep both the muscles and your baby really well oxygenated, because the muscles are working really hard when they're contracting. The muscles of the uterus also have certain qualities that are only and completely unique to the muscles of the uterus. They're unlike any other muscles of the body. And one of those is their tone. So unlike other muscles like your biceps and your triceps that we can strengthen and tone by lifting weights or exercising, the muscles of the uterus are smooth muscle that you can't consciously contract or tone. So the muscle of your heart is a smooth muscle. We can't consciously contract the heart muscle. It's completely out of our control. I cannot control how fast my heart beats. Just like you cannot control when your uterus contracts. It's not up to you to say, right, I'm ready for my baby to be born. I'm ready for the contractions to begin. There you go. It happens as a result of hormonal influences and other influences that are not under your control. The other unique property of the uterus is its ability to contract in response to those chemical messengers, specifically oxytocin. So during the first stage of labor, the upper part of the uterus, or the fundus, contracts to pull the lower part of the uterus open through the cervix. And it's very unique in that it has the ability to retract, which means that the uterus can hold the cervix open, maintaining its increasing dilation. So with each surge in the first stage of labor, the cervix opens a little bit more between this, a little bit more. Every contraction opens it a little bit more, but at the same time it maintains that opening through the property of retraction. And therefore, instead of it closing so that it has to do it again, it can open a little bit more. So each time those muscles work together, it's slightly pulling it up, opening it, and able to hold that opening as opposed to letting it close again. Otherwise, your baby would never be born. We refer to fundal dominance. So we spoke earlier about the upper part being called the fundus. So this refers to that spontaneous wave of movement that moves downward through the uterus, bearing down on your baby. So the pressure within the uterus is stronger up here at the fundus to help to gently nudge your baby down and out. And during the early stage of pregnancy, of labor, this fundus is focused more on retracting and opening the lower segment of the cervix. However, towards the second stage, when your baby is ready to be born, the function of the uterus changes somehow and somewhat in that the fundal pressure now increases and it moves in a wave-like motion down the fibers of the uterus so that it's almost gently nudging your baby down and out. When we spoke about the functions of the left brain and the right brain, one of the things that I referred to was rhythm. Now, the inherent rhythm of the muscle is in response to its physical and biochemical environment. So your relaxation and breathing helps your uterus to establish a harmonious rhythm within it. So just like your mind and body work together, we need the 3 layers of the uterine muscle to work together so that it works efficiently to open up the cervix. So if these 3 muscles are not working together, we talk about the fear, tension, pain syndrome. So if there's external or internal tension, what happens is those muscles are working really hard to pull up and over around your baby's head, but you are resisting them or holding back or squeezing yourself tight. You're not breathing correctly, and what we get is like almost a spasm. And this is what causes a delay in labor. So the importance of being able to relax and release tension and the importance of breathing are highlighted, and understanding the way that the muscles work will hopefully increase your understanding of why breathing and letting go of resistance and tension is so important during labor.